Hi there, this is a quick walkthrough of the Lupin Pet Performance Evaluation tool. This walkthrough will just look at the main functions that are in the tool. I won't go into any real detail about how to use those functions. There'll be topics for additional tutorials after this one. But let's have a look at the tool. When you start it up, it comes up with a view of trace files on the left hand side and a series of tabs or views into those trace files on the right hand side. Trace files are a useful way of finding out more about an application's performance. Usually it's kind of the 10,000 foot view of how an application is running across network tiers, and by having a tool like this that can quickly show you where delays are occurring in the application, you can find where there might be performance problems in a distributed environment a lot of times before you actually have to roll it out to your end users. Okay, let's look at the main functions on here. There's a filing cabinet icon. This one's used just to select what folder you want to go to that holds your trace files. A lot of times when I'm doing performance evaluations, I'll have a separate folder set up for each application and maybe each version or series of tests for that application, and I'll keep a trace file for in a lot of cases each transaction that I'm testing. There's an example here where I've opened up one particular folder and I've got various transactions related to going to the lupincorp site. You can get views of a particular application trace file by just clicking on it, and it'll refresh the browser to the conversations on the left hand side. You can see it's happening there. The other functions along the top is a button to refresh the contents of the folder. A lot of times if you add more trace files, you can quickly just hit the refresh list and see those additional trace files. There's a simple network capture capability in here. A lot of times you'll be taking traces with something like a hardware network capture device, especially in production environments, but if you're looking at an application that might be running on your own machine, talking to a server on another machine, this is a good way of just taking a quick trace. So let's have a look at an example of that. I'm going to make a new trace called port 80. I'm going to filter on port 80. I'm going to start the trace. I'm going to bring up a browser. Here we've got Google. I'm just going to look up lupincorp, do a search. It's come back with the results. I can stop my trace now. You see I've got a new trace in my list of traces here, the one I just took, port 80 cat, and on the right hand side in the tabs it's showing the conversations that were seen in that particular trace. So it tells me things like the trace took 2.8 seconds to run. There were 2 conversations at the IP level, and I can also drill down into the port level and see a further breakdown of those conversations at the port level. Other functions along the top is the trace file summary. A lot of times you want to get a quick summary of all the files that make up the traces for your application, so you can compare or quickly see the characteristics of each of the transactions. If each trace relates to a particular transaction, and decide which ones you want to look at first for performance. And for something like this, I'd see this turn number here of 99 for a couple of the traces, and that'd be something that would I'd spot straight away as being something that could impact performance or would impact performance, especially for remote users. So I'm going to want to go in and look at those 2 traces and see why there's so many turns involved. Other buttons along here is a quick way of starting up Wireshark for this particular trace. Again, the Lupin Pet tool really gives you visibility at the application layer side and shows you things that an application person would be interested in about a trace, and find out about the performance of a transaction. But sometimes you need to dig further down. You may see delays, and it seems to be caused by the network, and that might be where you want to start digging down into something like Wireshark and seeing lower level decodes and what's actually happening over the network with that transaction. Other functionality along here is ability to view data as HTTP. That's really only enabled for turn details. I'll show you that later, and the ability to export the data to Excel. So let's say we want to export the conversation to Excel. I click that button and I get the same data as I was looking at in the application now in Excel, and I could send this to someone if I wanted to. Also on the right hand side there's additional tabs. So at the moment we're just looking at the conversation view of this particular trace, where I was did a search in Google for Lupin Corp. Also look at turn details. So this shows the request response details between in this case my local machine, which has a friendly name of browser, and remote machines which were servicing the Google search. So probably if I dug in there I'd see there's things like images being retrieved, or advertising being retrieved from other servers that make up the Google services. And finally there's also a time series graph, and this is useful to see if a particular transaction's using more of, say, network resources, or also seeing things like window sizes, or TCP advertised window sizes, to see whether those are optimum for the amount of data that's being transferred. So I can do things like get quick graphs of the bits per second rate being transferred. So we see some peaks here for this particular conversation going up to 60 kilobits per second. I might look at another one, see a peak going up to 400 kilobits per second. So this is the quick walkthrough of the main analysis functions, and then if you bring up part 2 of this walkthrough, we'll look at the options and the tools and utilities. Thanks.